Hi and welcome to this making of another junk journal. I'm again going to be making a junk journal out of a vintage children's book, and I will again use Johanna Clough's no-sew method with the flexible binding because I love that so much in the last one. What you see here is a book I picked up at Goodwill a few days ago. It is a children's book and the name is Das große Buch der Tiermärchen, which means the big book of animal fairy tales. Basically, it's a book which has a compilation of fairy tales that contain animals. So, for example, Alice in Wonderland or Nils Holgersson. So what you just saw here were all the parts that I've already measured and cut to the sizes that I need. And what I'm doing here is I'm putting some liquid glue on the back of some bookbinding cloth that I chose in purple for this book, and I am just going to put that piece of cardboard that I cut for the spine right in the middle, and then the book covers, the front and the back, right next to it, but leaving about 1/8 of an inch so that it has space to fold. Now I'm just folding this book cloth over. So one of the book cloth pieces was a little bigger, so I could fold it over, and the other one that's going to go on the top here on the inside spine has the same size or the same height as the book to go over those top and bottom pieces. So here I'm just adding some more glue where I thought it was a little bit loose, and I'm just burnishing a little bit with my bone folder to make sure the creases are in there as well. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the outside, just burnish those creases. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the inside book cloth. So I'm just checking that the measurements are okay, and now I'm just again going to add my glue and spread it out with an old paintbrush, and then just glue that over the spine. And in this case I don't need to do anything with the inside book covers because they had these beautiful animal illustrations there, which of course I wanted to keep. So I'm just burnishing everything to make sure everything is gonna hold well, and I'm just gonna let that dry for a bit, just making sure everything is okay. Yeah, so that's the cover. That was easy. And now I'm choosing some embroidery thread to bind in my signatures. And this was the range of purples that I had, which is quite a lot. And I'm just kind of auditioning which one I think goes best with this book cloth cover. And I decided to go for actually this maroon one. This one right there, that's very pretty. And next thing I'm doing is I'm measuring where I need to punch the holes for the binding to go through. So my plan was to make 4 signatures. So I needed, and I wanted only 1 signature per embroidery thread. So I needed 4 holes spread equally on the width of this spine. So I just took the width of the spine, divided it by 5, and then I knew where I had to make those 4 holes. So I marked those, and now I'm just gonna punch through where I marked with my We Are Memory Keepers Crop-A-Dile, and I have that listed in my Amazon links below in case you are interested in getting one. I love this tool so much. They are not the cheapest, but I purchased this last summer when I was in the States, and I don't know how I managed before, to be honest. It was always a struggle with the manual one I had, and this is really a life changer. So now I chose some silver eyelets, because actually they were the ones that had the biggest width. So I just punched those, or I attached those, and now these are some of the original pages from the book that some of these I wanted to make into book pages for my signatures, and some of them I will use as, like, I can make some other ephemera with them. So what I wanted to do here is to cut them down to the right size and then to attach one to the other, so that I wouldn't have to fold the pages, so that I could keep the illustrations upright like that. So now what I'm doing is I'm just cutting it down a little bit. And what you have to be careful for if you make this kind of binding is your pages cannot be as long as the book. You have to leave space on the top and the bottom for the holes, and your pages need to fit in between those. I'm linking Johanna Clough's video below where she explains all of that in more detail. I got this idea from her. This is definitely not my idea. She has awesome videos, and I love the way she makes her journals. And yeah, this is the second one I'm making. There's just some minor differences in this one. I'm just trying out a few new things. And so one of the things I've changed from my previous one is for the previous one I've used some wax thread, and this time I'm just using some plain embroidery thread, just because I think the knots will hold better, and I don't think it's necessary to have wax thread. I think the regular thread will hold just fine. And now what I did was I just cut out some pages that had enough white space on them from that same book, some strips, to join these two pages together. So I just folded them in half, and now I'm gonna glue those book pages onto them and attach another one on the front so that they are together. That kind of cut off, I'm sorry. And then I'm also going to use these two book pages that are already, or that are still connected, so I don't have to do anything with that. And I thought about this one, which is gorgeous as well, but then I decided not to use it, because if I have so many pages in there that are so beautiful, I'm not going to want to cover them. So I also need enough pages that I'm happy to cover with ephemera or whatever. So now I'm just tearing the pages down to the correct size, and now I'm choosing the rest of my pages, or my papers, and I have this drawer with book pages and other papers that I have. And so my idea was I have 4 signatures, and I will have 4 pages folded in half in each, so that's a total of 16 pages. Because my last book, which has the same width of spine, which is 2.5 inches, I had 18 pages at the end, and it still turned out to be a gator mouth. So I'm hoping with 16 pages that won't happen, but we shall see. So my idea for this is, if you saw my last video, then you saw I was working in Allison's beautiful journal, and I will continue doing that, and parallel I will work in this one. So my thought was that depending on which ephemera I'm going to use, I'm going to be putting it in one of the 2 journals. And there might be episodes where I'm working only in one of the 2 journals, and there might be episodes where I work in both journals. So this way I can kind of keep Allison's journal hopefully in the style that she made the journal. And in this one I feel like I can work in it without worrying about it to bulk up, and I can add all my like lace bits and other things that I don't fit work with the style of Allison's journal, if that makes any sense. So this way I have the best of both worlds, because I love both styles, and I wouldn't want to just decide for one of those 2. So this is the first time I'm going to work in 2 journals in parallel, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm very excited to have that choice and to have all possibilities available to me, basically. So now I'm just still going through my paper treasures to see what I think would work best in this journal. And the way I'm trying to choose is I wanted a lot of papers that were kind of neutral enough that I wouldn't worry about covering them up, but of course I did want them to be interesting nonetheless. And a lot of these papers that I chose, especially all those ledger ones, came in Allison's last Happy Mail, so I'm very, very pleased to be using those in my journal. And I think I'm almost through choosing what I wanted. Yeah, I think I'm choosing one. This was also Happy Mail from the Netherlands, so I'm so happy to have different languages in my journal as well. Always love that. Okay, so now these are the final 16, I believe, I'm choosing now. And I just realized none of the papers are actually coffee stained. That's amazing. I think that's a first for me. Okay, final 16. So now next step is to fold the ones that need to be folded and to use that first page I made from the book. I'm using that as a template to tear the other ones that are too big, to tear them down. And I also didn't want every page to be the same size. I didn't want like tiny sizes and huge sizes, but I did want a little bit of variation in them. Okay, so now I had all my 16 papers folded and in the right size. And the next step is to lay them all out so that I see what I have. And I'm trying to kind of put them in categories, sort of. And now I need to decide on what is going to go into each signature. So I had 4 of those like ledger type papers, so I knew one was going to go in each. And then I'm just trying to kind of keep a variety of illustrations and more plain pages, and also checking which one is going to be the centerfold of each signature, although none of this is really relevant because we're not sewing the pages in, so that means I will have the flexibility of changing any one of these at any given time, which is one of the reasons I love this type of binding. And also what I love is that I don't have to worry about putting the papers exactly in what, like how do I say, like the smaller ones, if I were to sew them in, I would have to make sure they're positioned in the right way so that when I sew them in, like they're at the top, the middle, or the bottom. But I don't have to worry about any of that because of course I can move them when they're bound. And also not to have to deal with making the holes and sewing them in. I just love it because it's just so quick using this method. So now I take my embroidery thread and I just cut threads probably about 3 times the length of the book, and I just put the thread in the middle of the first signature. Then I'm gonna thread one, so the top through the top hole, the bottom through the bottom, and then the bottom back up and inside, and now I'm gonna tie them together, this time at the top, because last time I tied them together at the bottom because I had all the charms on the bottom. But this time I'm actually planning on trying to attach all the charms at the top and see whether I like that better, or on the bottom. So same thing, second signature, put the bottom thread through the bottom hole, the top thread through the top hole, then that bottom thread back into the top hole through to the inside, and then tie a tight double knot. Make sure you really pull it tight, and you just tie it off. And the strings are that long because that's where we're gonna add the charms. Yeah, so you do that for all 4 signatures, or for how many ever signatures you have. And in my last book I had 2 signatures per hole, which also is fine, but I thought I don't need to do that this time. Actually, I have enough space for 4 holes, so that would be easier. So after all those are tied in, now comes, I think, the most fun part, is choosing and adding your charms. So this is my little box where I have most of my like random charms, and a lot of these that I'm gonna pick are actually from the Happy Mail of Maud, and I love all the things that she sent me, specifically that first charm I held, that glass bottle with the flower, because that is a dried flower from her garden, so that is so special. And these are some random charms. I think this is from Maud as well. Some of them are actually from the flea market. These 2 are from a bracelet that my husband has actually had found somewhere, and it was broken, and he brought it home saying that he was sure I could use it for something. Don't you love it when they do that? I really, most of the time, have a feeling my hubby has no clue what I'm doing. Like, I don't think he really gets it, but I think he by now understands the type of things I like, so he just brings it in the hope that I can do something with it. So I think that's very cute. Yeah, this I think is also from Maud, and this one as well. She sent me so many cute ones. And these are just random things. I don't even know where I have them from. Then I thought about adding some beads, but most of the beads have pretty big holes, so I decided not to attach those. And yeah, and then I found this bird one. I don't remember where I have him from, but I bought him somewhere. Yeah, and that's it. And so now what I'm gonna do, and I'm also linking that video again from Johanna Clough below, where she ties the charm onto her journal, because she goes through it thoroughly. She explains how to do it. I'm just kind of tying them on, some of them with 2 threads, some I'm just making a double knot with 1 thread. So you can choose anything that you can thread a thread through, basically, whether it be a bead or any kind of charm, or anything that you could wrap a string around. I think Johanna has, I think, maybe a little spoon or something she just ties on that. Yeah, then I stood the book up for a little while, because that way I could see where the charms would actually dangle from, because I didn't want them all to be the same height. So I thought that would be better. There you can just see how I just make a very simple double knot. And then at the end I did cut off all the strings a little bit. I still left enough in case I did want to add another charm maybe at a later time, which is also great. I think that you have the ability to do that with this method. If I don't, then I can cut all the threads off even shorter once I'm done with it. Yeah, so that's all I'm adding. I think that's plenty and I love it. And now I just wanted to give you a very quick flip through of what the pages actually look like. And that's the journal. So if you haven't tried one of these, I really recommend you to try it. It's so quick, it's so fun, and it's so versatile. You can do anything with it. You can add pages later, you can take them out, you can rearrange them, you can take them out for sewing. I love this method. So that is the end. I hope it was helpful and hope to see you back for the next time when I start journaling in it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Baby, we can do this all night. Keep on second guessing our love.